Hello everyone and welcome to the Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Vorse, still just getting past this head cold here. A few years back I was visiting with a noted archbishop in his office about the dire state of the church and consequently, of course, the world. I asked him if he and the other bishops of his mind huddled up regularly, if they called each other, got together, formed organizations with each other, sat on each other's boards of directors and all that kind of thing. He looked at me somewhat puzzled and said, well, and I said back to him, well, your enemies in the episcopate do that, and they do have enemies. He answered me back and said, well, no, we don't. Conservatives tend to conserve. And that right there is a perfect sum up of everything wrong in the church, as well as the world when it comes to the so-called good guys. Conservatives, whatever that empty term has now come to mean, well, they're delusional. They fail to either understand or admit that their enemies play for keeps. They actually want them, us, dead. There seems to be this sort of Marquis of Queensberry rules approach to the political and mostly spiritual battle raging around us, like politeness should rule the day, tisk, tisk. But what is spoken of as politeness and charity is really just a mask covering cowardice, an unwillingness to not go to war and not do what needs to be done. There's some disease in the psychology of people who self-identify as conservative, be it in politics or the church, and most especially in the church, because they get to baptize their softness and portray themselves as religious and somehow above the fray, true Catholic gentlemen. That's hogwash. Maybe in some dystopian Victorian turn of the last century front parlor gentiles sitting in their minds that they can't think that way. But unfortunately for them and us, the world, well, it's not tracking with that. But this problem of the soft approach, it isn't new. Take, for example, this historical passage from 1871. 1871. What was the resisted novelty of yesterday is today one of the accepted principles of conservatism. It is now conservative only in affecting to resist the next innovation, which will tomorrow be forced upon its timidity and will be succeeded by some third revolution to be announced and then adopted in its turn. In short, so-called conservatives always give in. They don't fight. They don't even really resist. At first, they protest a little bit here or there, but in the end, they always give in. We see this in politics constantly, for example. You never hear about the left complaining and scratching their heads over a liberal Supreme Court justice suddenly flipping and becoming conservative. That gate only swings one way. But in the church, it's even more pronounced, so much so that there's a long-standing joke among priests that part of the consecration rite for being made bishop includes the removal of the spine. The world is not even. It tilts toward evil. It gravitates towards it. The inclination of man is always towards the selfish act, even if here or there that is overcome. Any victory is almost always short-lived. This is the fundamental reality that conservatives seem to either not grasp or they refuse to admit. Good people have to climb uphill. Bad people get to run down it. So the idea that you just hold your ground is a losing proposition to begin with in the face of an enemy attacking. Playing defense always loses. Sooner or later, the forces storm and overcome the castle. They do breach the walls. That is why our blessed Lord positioned His church to be on the offensive, not sit back and conserve. Conserve what exactly? A losing position? When He handed Peter the keys of the kingdom after saying He would build His church upon him, notice, by the way, church, not churches, one church, His church, then He said, the gates of hell would not prevail against it. That was a command from the divine general for his army to attack. It was hell that assumed the defensive posture of sitting behind its gates. The Son of God had come into the world to bring a full-on assault to the kingdom of darkness. These two kingdoms, only one would win, only one could win. Borrowing a line from old westerns, there's not enough room in this town for both of us. So on the attack they went, the apostles, their disciples, the next generation, and so forth. They converted an empire, not because they conserved, but because they attacked. They spent 500 years after that converting barbarians, the next few hundred fashioning Western civilization. None of this was done with a conservative mindset, just the opposite, in fact. But then came the next few centuries, and the warriors grew fat and lazy, built their own castles, and hunkered down in them. And we know the rest of the story, and today we are led, both in the culture and most especially in the church, by conservatives. Dear God, spare us from conservatives. This mindset needs to be broken. St. Paul was not a conservative. None of the apostles were conservative. Our Lord absolutely was not conservative. We can conserve everything we want once evil is defeated. But as long as we are here, conservatism is a sure loser. So lose the polite attitude. It's for delusional sissies. Your enemy wants you dead. They want your heads on pikes and your children enslaved. Conservative means coward, an unwillingness to confront what needs to be confronted. And not just confronted, but attacked and defeated. That's how the left acts. It's why they're always winning, and conservatives, far from conserving anything, are always in retreat. Stop conceding, stop compromising, stop all of it. Isn't it clear by now that's a losing strategy? Heck, it's not even a strategy. The good guys suffer from much, beginning with hapless leaders. Unless the rank and file rise up and demand accountability, you might as well just sign up right now and support sex changes for your children, giving up your gas stoves in your house, getting your booster every 6 months, and everything else the left crams down your throat. The idea of being conservative has got to be jettisoned from the lexicon of the people of God. God love you. I'm Michael Voris.